Good afternoon, welcome to another video with a guy and his projects. Today we are doing the tie rods, inner and outer. Inners are important. If you think your outers are bad, for as cheap as the inners are and you're doing it yourself, I recommend just replacing them even if they're good, because the best time to fix something is before you're on the side of the road broken down. So that's my method. We are replacing inners and outers. My inners are bad on this. There's 150,000 miles. I'm pretty sure they're original. We are going to be replacing the rack and pinion here shortly, but for today, we're doing tie rods. Easy job, you can do it in your house. I'm going to use basic tools that most people that like to spend time in their garage probably have in their garage, so nothing you can't do. I do say you need to go get yourself an alignment when you're done with this job. You are going to mess your alignment up. That is going to cost you money, but I would highly advise getting an alignment. Let's get started.
First things first, remove the tire, get it out of the way, make sure your car's chocked, be safe here. Get the tire out of the way. This is your stopper nut on the tie rod. This keeps your alignment from moving. Theoretically, you're gonna go ahead and bust this loose and just give it a couple turns out of the way. And you're gonna tighten this up when we're all done on the new ball joint as well. Grab your cotter pin remover, needle nose pliers, whatever you're using to pull this cotter pin out. I will link these in the description below, and then you can go ahead and bust this nut loose as well. You can either take it all the way off of the stud, or you can leave it on just at the top of the stud. Really doesn't matter. I leave it on because I'm going to pickle fork this thing off and I don't want it to go flying down. And not that it would damage anything, just I like things to be controlled. So I'm just going to use a pickle fork here to bust this thing loose, and once it breaks loose, I'm going to take that nut the rest of the way off, remove the washer, and there it is. At this point, I'm going to attempt to remove the tie rod, and you're going to count the turns as you take it off, and remember that number for the new one. I could not get this apart. It was seized together, so I was not able to do that. Please, though, if you can get it apart, count your turns, help your alignment and your alignment guy later. As you can see, my inner tie rod is super worn out, so we're replacing them anyway. You can also see that boot on the tie rod. The outer is super ripped up too. Up here on the boot, you're either going to have a zip tie or a clamp of some sort. This is a clamp. I'm going to squeeze that together, pull that off, and then I'm going to pop the boot loose. It's kind of latched in. It sits in a little groove, and all that red fluid is power steering fluid. That is not supposed to be in the boot. That means my rack and pinion seals are leaking, which, yes, I knew about that ahead of time, and that is in the works to get replaced. If you have fluid in there, look into a new rack and pinion. It should be dry, it should just be grease. So after that's taken care of, there's another zip tie. Sometimes it's metal, sometimes it's plastic in the back. You're going to cut that off the boot as well. Keep in mind, this is because we're replacing the inners and outer tie rods. Now that your boot is free, you can go ahead and get a crescent wrench, plumber's wrench, or tie rod tool on this back nut. This is a whole assembly, is going to move. You gotta hold your boot out of the way. I have a good cameraman that grabbed it for me. And then you can just take the long, arduous journey of spinning this 5 million threads off of the rack and pinion. It takes a while. You got a lot of threads there and not a lot of room to move. Just stick with it and you will indeed get there. Once you get there, it'll pop off. I don't know if you can see, there's a little black washer on the very end of that. That needs to stay there. Make sure you get that there. I didn't pull it off and it didn't fall off. When I did the driver's side, it did though. Just put it back in. This was the zip tie. It was a metal tie on that boot. Just pull it off. Your new inner tie rod should have the stopper nut threaded on. Go ahead and thread it back off so you can get the new boot on. And thread this in just like you took the other one out. This can be really tough to start. I don't know why. Sometimes they just don't want to thread on the right way. Once they start going, they're good. Do not cross thread. It'll ruin your whole rack and pinion. I don't have a torque spec for you on this, except as tight as you can get it. That's about as good as I get with a torque spec on here. Get it tight till you grunt, and then grunt again just to make sure, if you know what I mean. And there you go, that's tight. The little ball joint in there, you want to grease a little bit if you want to. I've got such a bad leak that I'm going to be replacing this rack and pinion here real quick, so I didn't even bother, to be honest. Your new boot's going to go in. You know it's in place when the small portion on the inner tie rod clicks into place. And then your rear portion, you're going to just slide over. It'll be pretty obvious once you're looking at it, I promise. Once you get it in place, you can go ahead and zip tie it in. Depending on the boots you bought, you might have plastic zip ties, you might have metal wraps, you might have metal ties. You'll have to figure that out, whatever it came with. Mine came with plastic zip ties. The first couple times I've installed these, I was a little nervous because it seems chintzy, but they seem to hold up really well. You're going to do the same thing on the front. You're going to put the zip tie on up here as well. And right there, if you guys aren't getting seasick yet, here we go. Here we go. There you go. And tighten it up. You're going to want to get as tight as you can without breaking them. Grab your side cutters or whatever you got to cut the extra tie or zip leg off. Boom, boom. She's looking purty. Get your stopper nut, screw that in, and at this point you need to remember how many turns your old tie rod took to get off so you can put the new one on. Let's just call it 19 turns. Might have been 25, might have been 12, who knows. That's only what you're the only one that knows because you counted when it came off. So go ahead and put those on. Do not copy my amount of turns. Like I said, I had issues. We did not count. Straighten the stud up as much as you can to line up with the hole it's going in on the knuckle, and sometimes you have to do a little wiggle action to get it in. Once it goes on, you're going to grab your washer, put it on the stud, and then your castle nut and put it on the stud. Tighten it down as much as tight can go and put your cotter pin back in. Your stopper nut, if you're happy with the way your alignment looks and measures, go ahead and tighten that down as well. And please go in for a proper alignment after this. If you don't, then don't blame me, because I'm telling you it would be in your best interest. So honestly, when I took this one in for the alignment, it actually turned out pretty good. It was all in the green. They were backwards green, but it was in the green. So the alignment did help me out quite a bit. All right, just make sure everything's tight, cotter pins in, and if you got greasable tie rods, make sure you slap some grease in there, and happy driving.
And that's the tie rod replacement. All you got to do now is run to your nearest alignment shop, get it aligned. Please get it aligned, or you're going to burn through your tires and you're going to have issues steering. You may end up with wobbling steering, may end up pulling to one side or another. Either way, you're going to burn your tires out. So get in alignment, take it in, highly advisable. And that's it though, super easy. You may have seen the juice running from the boot when we pulled that off. That's your power steering fluid. I am replacing the rack and pinion here soon, sooner than I thought based off of how much fluid is in there. So stay tuned for that video, that's coming. And yeah, if it ain't broken, now's the perfect time to fix it. See you next time.